contributes in any way to the successful operation of our center. For the month of November, we are beginning a new theme, and the title is Breathe in the View. Celebrating our arrival at the summit, taking in what we have accomplished, and then asking, what will our next journey be? And I think the music this morning, the musical offering, Climb Every Mountain, Follow Your Dreams, Follow Every Rainbow, is an invitation for us to continue to expand our view. Our talk title for today is The View from Here, and it is a view in consciousness. And I was thinking of, I was in a music mode, I think, when I was preparing for this talk, because what came up for me was the theme song from the sitcom The Jeffersons. Some of you may remember that. And their theme song was, "We're moving on up to the east side. We finally got a piece of the sky." And so I think the great metaphysical message here is moving on up. This is the way of our goal. This is where our practice should be, that we're moving on up, that we're expanding our awareness of the truth of who we are as spiritual beings. Part of my vacation, I spent down in Southern California in Los Angeles and Santa Barbara, and then I went into my home city of Long Beach. Long Beach was probably part of my formative years. I was there my teens and my early 20s. And thinking of the theme song from the Jeffersons, that they were moving on up to the east side. Well, when I lived in Long Beach, I lived on the east side, and there was a great migration to the west side. And this great migration, the piece of the pie that was expressed in this, was an opportunity for a number of first-time homebuyers to buy into properties. And it was also an opportunity for people who wanted maybe newer homes or larger space to move in. And there were many other experiences that were a part of that I will not share right here. But in going back to Long Beach, I entered the west side. And I was driving through and I was remembering the street names. And I didn't remember exactly where everyone had lived, but I remember how, when I was living there in Long Beach, how magnificent the west side felt. It had a certain vibe to it. And then I went back into my old neighborhood, which has changed dramatically since I last lived there, which is over 40 years. And I wouldn't imagine that anything would remain the same for 40 years. Some change has to take place. But what I noticed is that there's a big shift. The community is now identified as Cambodia Town. Now, when I lived there, it was a racially mixed community. But the other thing, and this is probably the most important piece, the thing that drives me back to Long Beach and to drive through the old neighborhood, when my parents sold the home, the family home, and moved back to Louisiana, whoever bought the property demolished the house that was there, and the house did need quite a bit of repair. And for 40 plus years, that lot has remained vacant. It's amazing, and part of my mother's vision was to leave me a piece of property. And that's a topic for an entirely different talk. But there's this wonder, is this part of her vision that is still waiting to manifest? And at the same time, I have no interest in going back to Long Beach or even owning property in Long Beach. But who knows what is to be revealed out of this? What I did come to a realization of, and this I think was the most profound for me, was that I have a feeling of completion now. There's no need to go back into Long Beach and to drive by the old homestead and say, and wonder what's going on. And so this is a good segue into our topic for today, breathing in the view. We appreciate the expansiveness of our growth and our development along the way. And we recognize that where we are now is a plateau. It is not the final destination in our spiritual evolution. And so if we look at this from a science of mind perspective, we recognize as we turn away from the appearances of a situation and lift our consciousness out of the material scene, we see every situation from a place of spiritual truth. Again, going back to our inspirational music, climb every mountain. Each peak, each plateau that we arrive at along that mountain gives us a view. And we appreciate the view, and as we look up, we see that there is still a higher place to go, a higher place in consciousness to go. And so the timeless wisdom and the diversity of our Science of Mind teaching asks us and invites us to be aware of that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. And I believe this is the essence of our teaching. So as we're climbing this journey, as we're walking along the path, whether we are ascending to a high place or we're descending into a valley, to appreciate and to give thanks for what is there, recognizing that God is in this very moment, in this very experience. My computer is deciding that it wants to do a scan, and I'm not ready for it to do a scan. Okay, technology, let's work together this morning, not at odds with each other. Ernest Holmes in his writings uses the phrase, the ultimate goal of life. We find this in our statement of belief. The ultimate goal of life does not mean that we arrive at a spiritual destination where everything is static and inactive. What Holmes is offering to us is that the ultimate goal of life, spiritually, is but a starting point for a new and further evolution. He also says that the spiral of life is upward, and so we know that we're on this upward spiral of life. And so I offer some illustrations to expand on the Science of Mind view, if you will. And the first one is a time to reflect. And I'm reminded of a little story that I heard quite some time ago. And let's call it the thief, the Doberman pinscher named Jesus, and the parrot. Remember the characters, the thief, the Doberman pinscher who is named Jesus, and the parrot. And so the thief identifies the house that they're going to break into. And as they're breaking into the house, Jesus gets ready for the attack. And the parrot signals to Jesus, just be still, lay low, chill out for a minute here. And so as the thief is walking through and gathering up the belongings that he's choosing, the parrot is saying, Jesus is going to get you. Jesus is going to get you. And he looks at the parrot and he's, just kind of ignores him and discounts what he's saying. And so as the thief has gathered all that he can in the container that he has, and he's on his way out, the parrot says to the Doberman pinscher, sick him, Jesus. Now, I believe that the thief would have chosen a different home if he had known the existence of the true meaning of Jesus as the Doberman pinscher in that moment. And so as we reflect on life experiences, we reflect on the challenges, the triumphs, the opportunities, the actions, the shifts, the pivotal moments in both our individual growth and in our spiritual growth, in our spiritual community. And I ask us to reflect for a few moments just on our spiritual community, and as we reflect, think about just the changes that have occurred during this pandemic. We have altered and shifted the way that we experience community, and yet we have remained cohesive. And if anything, I think we may have bonded a little closer together in this process because we knew that this was a safe place. This was the place where we could come together and rely on each other. Our center has remained operational. And by operational, we kept our doors open. Even though we may have been closed for public access for a while, we did not close the center as did occur in some of our communities. We expanded our outreach through Zoom, through our Zoom connection, through Facebook, through our YouTube channel. We brought in a new minister. We've offered classes and other ways to connect. And the prosperity consciousness of this community provided for us the financial and the human resources that allowed us to continue to operate in the Black. And the good news is we didn't have to sponsor a Black Friday sale. We did this together as community. And I invite you to think about the other ways that we have, think about it as you reflect, think about the other ways that we have come together as a community. And we can share this as our time after service this morning. The second illustration is we're invited to breathe in the view. As we reflect and take a moment to appreciate and honor what has been accomplished on this journey, we're reminded to give thanks. In all things, give thanks. In all things, give thanks. We are to express gratitude for all of it. There's an expression that says, what we praise, we raise. What we appreciate grows and expands. And so as we express gratitude for absolutely everything that is in our life, whether we call it good or whether we call it bad, but that which we call bad or not so good or whatever term we may use for it, look for the growth opportunity. Look for the blessing that has taken place in that experience. For those things that we identify as good, as uplifting, as enriching, as empowering, give thanks for the blessing that is emerging out of that. Notice how breathing in the view with gratitude shifts our perspective. And the events and the moments along the journey even become more opportunities for us to appreciate all that takes place in our life. Feeling and expressing gratitude lifts our consciousness even higher. I don't know about you, but when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I say is, thank you, life. Thank you for another day. And that just automatically lifts me from, if I've had somewhat of a restless night or had some dreams that are a little bit unsettling or some memories that have come up, just expressing that gratitude for waking up in the morning lifts my feeling, lifts my beingness, and allows me to move into my morning spiritual practices with a greater sense of gratitude, a deeper appreciation for life. Gratitude allows us to see rightly. And our third illustration that I offer is that, remember, the journey continues. We're on a continuous upward spiral of evolution in consciousness. And then in this upward spiral, we will face challenges. And this gives us the opportunity to recognize what Ernest Holmes teaches, and that is the sum of all erroneous human belief binds us until we mentally lift ourselves above the law of averages into the higher law of spiritual individualism. So we can settle for the okie dokie, and we can be okay with the okie dokie, or we can know that there is a higher calling, there's a higher consciousness, there's a higher expression of life that is waiting to emerge from us. And this leads us into our call for action. Our task in any situation is to look beyond the appearances and see the spiritual truth of what is before us. I remember there on PBS, and I don't know if it's still on there or not, but I used to watch it many, many years ago, but there was a British sitcom called Seeing Beyond Appearances. I don't know if you saw that or not, but it was the character was there was a woman who was striving to be all that, you know, to be the social butterfly, to be the one that was recognized. And she was very caught up in the appearance of things, and everything within her house and everything in her environment had to be a certain way, very pristine and very precise, and everything was very accurate. And so we're invited to move beyond the appearances, and it's the outer appearances, to move beyond the outer appearances and to seek the spiritual truth of what is before us. Our purpose then becomes to live the purest and the highest and the fairest and the most useful and beautiful life possible, just for today. And this is the key, that we do this just for today, because this is all we have promised. We practice what New Thought leader Christian D. Larson offers in his book, The Pathway of Roses. Be your very personal best here and now, with no desire to outshine someone, some other being, but simply be all that you are, a divine being now. And this reminds me of the song, Everything is Holy. And in this song, the writer talks about growing up as a child and going to Mass and hearing the holy word spoken by the priest, taking the Eucharist, participating in the catechism classes and the teachings of the Catholic faith that he was a part of. Other writers have adapted these words to apply to the spiritual environment or to the religious environment that was a part of their experience. And what emerges out of this is a recognition that everything, absolutely everything, is holy now. And so as we expand our awareness of the truth of who we are as spiritual beings, we can say everything, absolutely everything, is holy now. And we embody our CSL Global Vision, which says we envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence, discovering the creative power of thought, a world where every person discovers their individual personal power and the ability to create an individual life that works in a world for everyone exactly where they are. And this leads us now to our journal and reflection and discussion questions based on the topic for today. And I've asked our tech team to drop these along with our weekly affirmation into the chat for our Zoom family and into the comments section on our Facebook page. And so our first question that we ask ourselves is, how do I lift my eyes to the truth? How do I lift my eyes to the truth? And the truth is with a capital T, the truth of spirit. Question number 2, what situations are difficult for me to see the truth? What situations are difficult for me to see the truth? And the invitation with this question is to really spend time in contemplation, spend time in meditation, and just ask, show me where the difficulties are for me in seeing the truth, and listen for the answer. And the third question is, how do we celebrate the moments that we have lifted ourselves out of the material world? How do we celebrate those moments where we have lifted ourselves out of the material world? And our affirmation for this week is, I lift my eyes to the highest and grandest view of life. And I invite you to say that with me. I will say it, and then I invite you to respond. I will lift my eyes to the highest and grandest view of life. And just think about that for a moment. Allow that to just resonate with you. I lift my eyes to the highest and grandest view of life. Let us pray together. Emerson reminds us that prayer is the contemplation of the facts of life from the highest point of view. And so it is in this knowing that I recognize the all-prevailing presence of Spirit, that essence that is in everything just as it is right here, right now. It always has been and it always will be. And in this moment, I recognize my oneness with Spirit, and I recognize the oneness of each one with Spirit. We're all individualized expressions of this purest and highest idea of spiritual expression. And so I speak my word beginning with gratitude for the marvelous life that is afforded to us each and every moment. And so just for this particular moment in time, acknowledging the breath that is given in this moment in time, offer thanks for life. Offer thanks for everything that is a part of this marvelous life. Offer thanks for the lessons that have been learned. Offer thanks for the ahas. Offer thanks for those moments where there was a questioning of my spiritual connection, a questioning of my oneness, a questioning of, really, does God exist? Acknowledge those moments where there was a so-called crisis of faith, and reflecting on how Spirit was there to support and to guide and to coach and to counsel and to love, not to criticize, not to blame, not to strike down, but to love, to express only love. And so this is our call, to express only love for ourselves and love for everyone and everything that is around us. And as we continue to live this life, as we continue to be in the world and not of the world, I know that the Spirit of the living God, the essence of all that there is that which supports, sustains, and guides us every step of this journey. I speak a word of blessing this morning for those who are experiencing health challenges, health opportunities, knowing that the healing love and the healing power and presence of Spirit is absolutely all that there is, restoring each one to that place of wholeness, to that place of perfection, knowing that the healing presence is doing what it is designed to do. I speak a word of blessing for caregivers, for our first responders, and also for those who bring closure to the experience of this journey called life, knowing that each one plays a vital role along this journey. And so I give thanks for the commitment, for the dedication, for the love, for the knowledge, for the technology that is available to all of our caregivers in whatever capacity they serve. I speak a word of blessing for right livelihood, for those who are experiencing shifts in their economic circumstances, shifts in their housing circumstances, shifts in relationships, declaring that there is right action taking place right here and right now. And that as we weather this so-called appearance of a storm, knowing that even at the eye of the storm, at the eye of the most terrible storm that can be imagined, at the very eye of that is peace and calm. And so I'm calling forth that peace and calm within the lives of each one, knowing that in the eye of the storm, God is, and all is well. Blessing places where individuals are gathering in the recognition of the one Spirit, the one presence, the one power. However it is that they identify with this one presence and this one power, knowing that this journey of life has many paths, And so as our paths intersect, as they intertwine, or as they walk parallel, or as we walk vertically with each other, we're walking the path, we're walking this highway to heaven. And heaven is this place of consciousness where we remember that God is and that all is well. Giving thanks for this and so much more, I release this word back into the law, which always says yes, just allowing it to be so. And if any of what I have said resonates with you in any way, let us affirm it together by saying, and so it is. And this is now our time to shift into our gracious giving, that opportunity to give thanks and to share the abundance that Spirit has shared with us. And we have an abundance statement. That we will share together. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. I release this visible substance as an outer symbol of my inner supply into the physical world. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And so it is. And again, just expressions of gratitude for the ongoing demonstration of prosperity consciousness within our Monterey spiritual community. And there are ways to give. You can mail in a check, and the address is on your screen. You can make a secure donation to our website. That website is on your screen. And you may also text to give. And again, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we thank God for you. And as we prepare to say good morning to our Facebook community, invite you to return next week as we continue our theme, Breathing in the View, for the month of November. And our topic will be Seeing Beauty and Feeling Grace. Seeing Beauty and Feeling Grace. And so we say thank you and good morning to our Facebook and our YouTube families.